Hello, I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski, and I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Veterans Spotlight, which is a partnership effort in my office and the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. This project was created by the Library of Congress back in 2000 as a way to preserve the personal accounts of American war veterans so that future generations may hear directly from veterans and better understand what has happened on our front lines. As we all know, Alaska's relationship with our veteran community is unique. We have the highest percentage of veterans in our population in the entire United States. Our veterans have served with distinction. They have served selflessly, and every single one of them has a story to tell. Veterans Spotlight is our opportunity to listen and learn. We can learn a lot about our country, our state, and ourselves from the men and women who have fought for us and the freedoms that we hold dear. We owe it to our veterans to honor them through sharing their stories, and we owe it to our nation to use their stories as lessons of patriotism, commitment, and service. If you have a parent, a sibling, friend, or a member of your community whose service to our nation should be shared with the nation, I invite you to reach out to me at spotlight@murkowski.senate.gov.
And at the time that I went active duty, I was a single mom with a 2-year-old son. So it was tough. It was very tough. When I went for my deployment, my son was 3 years old. Thankfully, I had family here in Alaska, and they were able to take him for me while I was deployed. And so there was that, and I came here on my leave, and but it's always going to be hard anytime you have to go. I was deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. Our unit was placed in Camp Taji, and we were an aviation air assault unit. My job was basically a radio transmit operator. I was the first line communication between my aircraft and my pilots to my battle captain, my battle NCO, and I basically, flight followed them on all of their missions. We were there predominantly for several reasons, but one of the big missions that we frequently ran was keeping soldiers off the ground, out of the vehicles and in the air. There was a lot of roadside bombs and things like that in Baghdad, and when I went, it was 2008, 2009, and although we had surpassed a lot of the major incidences, there was still a lot of the same things still there, like roadside bombs. And so we were basically keeping, minimum convoys pretty much, and getting them in the air and transporting instead of them being on the road. When you're away, you've got certain things that you always count on. You always count on the mail. That's a really big upper. Or chow's a really good upper too. Having those basic necessities basically uplift morale. Being able to kick back and hang out with your comrades and your brothers and your sisters over there, and you basically share each other's feelings, essentially. Whatever is motivating them that day or demotivating them that day, and you're basically all in it together. Essentially, I think I miss the camaraderie the most, because there's, you get the most personal with your comrades in those type of situations than when you're back in the States and can go home every night. So, when we left Baghdad, we went back to Fort Hood, basically restarting everything again, getting back into the life when you're in the States, whatever your mission may be. And then, of course, getting the family life back together, and I met my husband, and we got married and had a child together as well. I got hurt when I got back. I hurt my knee, and that made it pretty difficult for me for the rest of my enlistment. And of course, we were home when the shootings happened in Fort Hood too. It was very scary, both on the aspect as at the time that everything was happening, nobody really knew what was going on. we knew that the post was shutting down. We knew that there was a terrorist attack, or that's what it was being called at the time. And there was different stories as to what was going on. We knew that it was on what side of the post that it was going on at. It was very scary because nobody was released until 10, 11 o'clock that night. And we had kids and family off post that we weren't able to get to. And in those situations, you're at home and you're near your family. Your initial instinct is, I need to get to my family. So it was frustrating. It was scary. Where this happened, our unit was just gotten back, and so we were going through that process as well. We had unit members that were there. One of our medics specifically was there and was a big part of that whole thing. I had been there that morning, and for whatever reason, I was supposed to come back at that time that all that occurred, but last minute, one of the medical officers was able to squeeze me in and sign my documents and send me off. So when I came back to report, I reported back to my unit and not at the medical facility. So that's, I don't know that I have words for that. Nothing really seems appropriate. I got out of the service, and we had a daughter together, and she was born, and then he was sent to Afghanistan with the unit. So and I got to experience a whole different side of that role. When I was fixing to get out of the service, and when my husband was, at that time it was not looked highly on not re-enlisting. If you didn't re-up, then you were no longer a hard worker. You're no longer a good soldier. You basically are institutionalized. The Army takes for the most part a good job of taking care of you, and they help you out with housing and so many different other entities. And then when you look into transitioning to civilian force, a lot of that protection is no longer there. And so, for several years as a single parent, looking at not being able to meet that family care plan, I was scared. What am I going to do when I get out? I have no idea. I never planned to go to college. What could I possibly do? And for my husband, it was the same thing. It was, can I make it? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to be able to support my family? And so in the position that I hold now, working with service members and the training that we have here at work, I'm basically service members are coming in, they're getting this training, they're getting a skill set, and then they're turning around and they're getting a job. And that's an amazing feeling to have, knowing that they're not going to have those same worries that I had when I was getting out and that my husband had of, can I make it? They're going to come, they're going to get trained, and they're going to turn around and be able to provide. Because essentially when they come out, they still got a family, they still got bills, and they need to do something. And so I've gotten hooked, as it were, on that. It has become something that I'm very strongly passionate about, and anything I can do to keep someone from going through what we went through, I'm all for it. So, and it's a 99% job success rate, and it's an amazing feeling. And these guys have been able to get picked up, either before even graduating the program to several weeks after. And it's just such an amazing feeling for them to be so excited and be like, yeah, I got hired on with this company, I got hired on with that company. And, we want that for all of our students, not just veterans, but it's especially, kind of that feel good when they've got it, and they're thankful and they're happy with the position that they have, and that makes it even better. So, we've even incorporated starting to try and pull our veterans together for resumes and things like that, and looking them over before they start passing them to employers, just because when you're in the military, it's straight and to the point. It's You don't have fluff. There's just certain things that you don't embellish on that is kind of required in the civilian aspect. And it's hard to go from that military setting and the lingo and then all of a sudden speak differently and be able to break it down. A lot of times civilians don't understand. They've never been through it. They don't know what you're talking about when you say I went on mission, or I participated in X amount of missions, was in command of X amount of soldiers. They're like, okay, cool, So yes, veterans find themselves when they get out not able to transfer a lot of their skill set. It just doesn't, especially, and I hate to pick on them, but infantry is a really big one. And those are the guys that often have the most trouble because of the fact that it just doesn't transfer. Or even in the other positions, communications is a big one. Even administrative is not always transferable either. With the job that I did for the military, that's a 2-year degree in the civilian world. And if you weren't actively preparing yourself while you were in, you're going to find yourself in a pretty lonely boat when you're fixing to get out. And a lot of these people, a lot of the soldiers think when they're transitioning that it will cross over, and unfortunately we have to be the kind of the bad guys and say, I'm sorry. What you did was very honorable and respectful, and thank you. But it's not going to help you get a job. And I think that's a really hard conversation to have with people. Really hard. A lot of times when we get out of the service, we don't know what's available to us. We don't know about our education benefits. We don't know what medical benefits are available to us. It's kind of a blanketed information. You've got to talk to the right people to get the right information. And I definitely want to stress that if you're getting out, prepare for it. Make sure you're talking to people, because there's communities everywhere that are designed to help veterans. And it's better to know what's available than wait till it's too late and then you're just trying to dig out of a hole. And we don't ever want to see that. And that's what we strive to do. That's what I would like to strive to do is to prevent veterans from ending up in that position, because they serve. We put on that uniform. We're family, and you don't want to miss your family like that. Not ever. You want to see them striving and happy and moving on with the next mission, next chapter. So definitely use resources. So there's people who are willing to help. It may seem sometimes like when you get back, like nobody cares. Like, yeah, that's neat you served. That's neat you went overseas. Cool. But it means a lot. And just because you're not donning the uniform on, you're not putting it on every day, you swore to an oath, and that doesn't ever go away. It's always going to be right here. Always. It is for me every day. I can't put the uniform back on. I wouldn't even be able to pass the PT test. But not a day doesn't go by that I don't look back and miss it. I miss putting that on, what it stood for. I miss my comrades. So this is essentially my way of holding on to that. I definitely feel that what I'm doing here is something I'm supposed to do. I feel like it needs to be done. And I'm more than happy to try and help fill it in any way that I can. So at the moment, I feel like I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be pushing for this. And I gladly accept more, and I've kind of think that at some point that maybe this is, this and maybe a few other entities that I would like to get involved in and become a part of, knowing what it feels like and being able to turn around and help those people, knowing that they're going through that too, or prevent them from going through it, to me is very important.